You know, some people in the comments sometimes call me Alan. I call this channel First Man Photography because my surname is hard to say and hard to read, but I thought Adam was fairly straightforward, you know, like the first man. Anyway, I think it's finally time to give you a tour of the studio. It may never happen. I've learned loads over the years making these videos, so if you want a few tips and tricks how you can set your home office or studio up for creating videos, or if you're just interested in what I've got going on, then this is the video for you. Let's go. I said on last week's video that if you want to reassure yourself that you're on the right path with your photography, you should go back and look through an older portion of your portfolio because you'll almost certainly see an improvement. And I've done that just this week, but to do with videos. Going right back to when I started, and it just looked an absolute mess. My presentation wasn't very good, and then it kind of developed over the last 5 years whilst I've been doing this YouTube channel, from the home office in London essentially, and then moving up to Leeds and the various houses I've been in here, and then eventually to this studio. That then really begs the question, which has been asked by people several times now, is why does a landscape photographer need a studio? And the truth is, a landscape photographer doesn't need a studio, but my reasons for it are threefold. The first one is that I've got a young family and the house is not really big enough for the growing family of 4 people, the business, and to film videos. Second reason is that I just didn't like working at home. It made me lazy, for one thing. I started to feel a little bit lonely a lot of the time because I wasn't getting out and seeing anybody. And that then meant that there wasn't really any separation between my work life and home life, and it didn't suit me anyway. Now the third reason is that I make videos and it's good to have a dedicated space for that. I was fine doing it at home on certain occasions, but since I launched the Raw Room, which is my online learning platform and place for tutorials and masterclasses and things, I've needed a little bit more. Now I did the landscape photography masterclass, which was obviously outside, but then when I was filming the water drop photography masterclass, I did that in my kitchen, and it was just really difficult to get the right camera angle to make it look like it wasn't my kitchen, because one wrong move and you'd see my washing machine, which I really didn't want in that video. So the main point of this place is to be able to make those Raw Room videos and these YouTube videos in a more professional setting, and for them just to look a whole lot better, and it just to be easier for me to be creative. And that is why I am paying the extra money for a place like this. It's also a bit of a dream. If you haven't checked out the Raw Room yet, go to the link down below and you can get a 7-day free trial. That gives you access to absolutely everything, including the masterclasses, the presets, one-to-one Skype sessions with me, and then over 20 hours of other tutorial content. And it's growing all the time, and this place is just going to make it better. So make sure you check it out. Right, so I currently have 3 setups that I've sort of crafted together. This is the first one. This is the sort of main YouTube to camera piece. So let's step outside of this so you can see what's going on behind. Right, let's turn this main video light off. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's talk about cameras first and foremost. The main photography camera I'm still using is the Canon 5D Mark IV. I've been interested in the Canon R5 for quite a while, which has now been announced, and the price in the UK is just so much higher than the US, and it's a little bit frustrating. Anyway, it doesn't really matter because I decided against buying that camera. This camera, and many others like it, that's DSLRs that you've bought in the last 10 years, take fantastic photographs. You don't need much more than this, essentially. So I decided not to upgrade that, but what I did need was a new video camera, and the Canon R5 the features are very good video-wise, but I've been doing a few little documentary type video projects over the last couple of years, and every time using a DSLR is less than perfect. It can be done, don't get me wrong, but it's less than perfect when you want to make those cinematic sort of films, essentially. So I've decided to go for a cinema camera. This is what I'm now using. It is the Canon C200. It was expensive, but not too much more. Yeah, not too much more than the Canon R5. And the beauty of this is it uses the EF mount. So all my lenses immediately work. If I'd gone for that R5, I would have had to buy new lenses. So this has really worked out cheaper, and it's going to be better for video. The overall ergonomics, The picture just looks beautiful. It shoots raw, does it all that I'm going to need for those documentary type videos. It's overkill for YouTube videos, to be honest, but it still looks great. It's also got the kind of screen here that I can see myself with, so don't need to worry about getting a separate screen or anything like that. We'll talk about sound in a little bit, but this is the main light. It is the Aperture 300X. Control it with this. Got it on this big soft box, which just makes it that nice soft light to light up my face when I'm talking. The other good thing that I like about the studio generally is these windows. There's such a good feature of the room that I kind of wanted them to be in the video, and I quite like the trees that you can see outside there as well. So I kind of wanted them to be in the background of the shot. This light, because it's so powerful, will let me get the exposure on my face to match what's outside. And the C200 has built-in ND filters, so I don't need to worry about putting anything on the front of this 18 to 35mm Sigma lens, and I think it looks nice. I've then got the main lights on for the room, which cast that kind of nice little accent onto the wall there. This fluorescent one, which is slightly yellower than the main video light, just casts a nice little hair light onto my shoulders as well. It could be brighter. I might get a dedicated hair light later down the line, but so far that's working quite nicely. Another thing camera-wise, when we talk about all these new video features that cameras like the Canon R5 have, even the Fujifilm X-T4, the thing with shooting this beautiful video is it takes up so much space, and you also need really fast memory cards. I mean, they're expensive. I was lucky enough to get contacted by Kingston just at the right time, and they sent me a couple of these cards, these Canvas React Plus cards, and so far they've been absolutely fantastic. It's pretty much the only thing that you're going to see in this video that I haven't paid for myself. So far they've been brilliant, and they are fast. The UHS-2, 300 megabytes per second, 256 gigabytes, so I can record for quite a while with this camera. They're also just that little bit cheaper than the SanDisk ones, so really impressed. I've used Kingston memory in my computers a lot in the past as well, so that just was a happy match really. But I'll put links for everything that I'm going to talk about down in the description. Like I talked about the other day, it still is a little bit echoey, because if I point the camera up, it's like a cavern in here, or cave. Initially, as a bit of a stopgap, I put these up. Now, I don't particularly like these because they're a little bit ugly. They're kind of a glistening grey, which is very strange, but they're very cheap and they do the job to some extent. But I needed an upgrade, so I've bought a few of these ones. These are GIK Acoustics, GIK or JIK, I don't know, GIK acoustic panels. I've got another 9 of these on order to then put on the ceiling. They're coloured white, so that once I get them up, it will sound really nice in here for these videos. Now, photography-wise, I do have a fair bit of space. I'm going to get some backdrops, probably mount them up on the beam there, and that will then give me this space as a photo studio when I need it. And just rig up some flashes on these stands here, and then I'm good to go for shooting portraits, and I'm going to be doing different things like that on the raw room, little different genres of photography, not just landscape. Another thing photography-wise is the printer. This is the Canon Pro 10S. I've had that for a long time, made a few videos about that now. Print your work, you will be utterly rewarded by doing that. I'll put a link to a couple of those videos. To some extent, I'm living my dream here. It's always been something I've wanted to do. It's not a massive space, to be honest, so I don't really have the luxury of having everything set up all of the time. So I'm constantly going to have to be rigging stuff up and breaking it down again. And I don't actually mind breaking the gear down. It's quite good fun sometimes. So yeah, let's break it down anyway now and get the next setup going. Right, so this is the podcast setup. My podcast is called the Raw Room Photography Podcast. It's free on all your normal podcast places. I've been doing it for about 2 years now, on and off. But now I've got the studio, I've got this set up. I'm going to be putting much more effort into it to try and get good guests to come in, a few mates at times as well for a bit of banter, but that's the plan with the podcast. Let's have a look at what we're doing here. It's multi-angle. I will have 3 cameras when I've got a guest, but at the moment I've got 2 setups. I've got the C200 again on there, and then I've got the Canon 5D Mark IV as the main angle, and then, like I said, there'll be another one there shooting at whoever the guest is. For the lighting, I have this overhead light. It's just on this C-stand here with the boom arm across the table. It's nice and light, so it's not going to fall over, and that will just give that nice moody lighting to the podcast. So I think what we should do is jump in to this setup, and we'll discuss probably the thing that has caused me the most trouble throughout all these years of making videos. Doing the actual work with the camera and coming up with angles and things almost came naturally. Obviously, there was still some challenges, but one thing that was completely alien to me was audio. And it's just been a huge challenge all the way through because it's just difficult. And I'm a photographer, and I've just basically had to learn how to do audio from scratch. There was always times when I was mucking the audio up. You've got to worry about levels and things like that, and just if you record it too loud, then it's just unusable. If you record it too quiet, it's just going to sound awful. So you kind of have to get the audio just right. I've used a mixture of things over the years, but I've recently, or a little while ago, got this. Now this is the Zoom F6, the Zoom F6, yeah, and it's essentially just solved all of my audio problems for when I'm behind the camera on a job or just in the studio, because I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it captures a lower audio and a louder audio all at the same time and combines it into a 32-bit file, which means you can then just raise and lower the audio in post-production, and it's essentially recording like raw audio. You've got the same amount of control as you might have with a raw photograph, for example, and that's just made it really, really nice. I then have all these different microphones. I've got this one here, which is the Rode NTG3. Really nice. This will usually be what I'm recording with overhead as a boom mic, or it'll go on top of the camera if I'm on a job. I then have the one over here, which is a Shure Sm57. I've had that for years. Used to record myself playing the guitar and stuff, which I do play, by the way, using that microphone. It's just such a multi-purpose microphone. It's just brilliant. Still does the job today. I've then got a little microphone capturing scratch audio on top of the C200 and another one on top of the vlogging camera, which I normally use. For the podcast, I'm going to be using headphones. I like doing it for podcasts because when you're speaking to someone, it feels much more intimate. You can really get into the conversation. And what it also does is it means that people who don't naturally have good mic etiquette, i.e. not getting too close or too far away, if you can hear your own voice in the headphones, so it encourages you to stay a little bit closer. I then have this little headphone amplifier here where you can adjust the level of your headphones. So it's a nice little setup, and this Zoom F6 has really helped. It's just idiot-proof, basically, which is kind of what I need when it comes to the audio. So this is the podcast setup. Multi-angle, as we can see as well. So we can flick between the Canon 5D Mark IV for the podcast, for the wider shot like this. And then when someone's talking, we'll go to their sort of headshots, which will be like this. So quite pleased with the setup. I think it looks moody, it looks dramatic, and it just kind of puts all the focus on the conversation, hopefully, when I've got someone sat opposite me. So yeah, I'm really happy with this, and I'm just looking forward to all this social distancing stuff being over so I can get some good people in here and have some great conversations for you to listen to. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Into the desk setup now, and I use this angle when I'm working at the computer basically and talking to camera. The main thing is the computer. It is a iMac Pro, sorry. It was expensive, but with the amount of video editing I'm doing, more so than anything else. I wanted something that was just going to work and be powerful enough to process and edit 4K footage particularly. I've had it since 2017. It's expensive, it's stupidly expensive, but I think it's probably been worth it. I've then got a second monitor that is a calibrated one. It has full RGB. You can knock it into Rec 709 for video editing as well. All those color spaces are included. It's really accurate and I get really nice accurate prints with that as well. Now that I've got a bit more space, I don't need to have the printer on here anymore. So I've got this little bit of space here. I'm gonna try and always have someone else's work on here, just so I can look at it when I'm sick of working and I'll have a little break, look through someone else's work. This is a beautiful book by my friend Sam Gregory. He is the host of the Togcast, which you should definitely check out as well. Probably the biggest podcast on photography in the UK, but this is just a fantastic book. I'll put a link to his website down below. Very, very nice. What else? What else? Backup. Yes, I think we need to talk about that because it's definitely something that everybody should be doing and have some sort of backup process. I'm using a Drobo. It's like a RAID thing with several hard drives in it. That holds absolutely everything I've ever shot, pretty much. It's quite large in terms of storage space. So when I'm doing video editing, I can pull old bits of footage into newer videos if I need to, and I've got all my photographs on there that pretty much I've ever took. I don't delete anything. That's then backed up to Backblaze, and I then back it up to another external hard drive every now and again, and then the new process is to then take that hard drive and move it to my house. So I've got off-site backup and cloud backup. Don't want to lose anything. It'd be an absolute disaster if I lost anything. The Drobo works. It's not great, but it works for now. I'd like to have a slightly better system, but because it overheats a lot, which is annoying. For the Canon 5D as well, when I'm sat here, because it doesn't have a flip out screen, I'm monitoring on the iPad, which is quite handy as well. That's how I've done it for quite some time. So I've got these things down on my desk for when I'm sitting here talking, because it removes a little bit more of the echo that comes off the desk. Another thing that I have under the desk, which has actually saved me a number of times, is a UPS. That is, I don't know what it stands for, but it's essentially a big battery that if you have a power cut, it will cut in and keep your computer going. And it gives you time to then save whatever you're doing if you have a power cut and shut down properly so you don't lose any data. Again, backup essentially, I guess, isn't it? So it's still a bit of a work in progress. I want to also make it a really great place to hang out. So when guests come and people I'm going to be working with, it's just a nice place to be. I think maybe a sofa down there, and probably treat myself to a TV and a PlayStation as well for a bit of downtime on these long days making and filming videos. Anyway, I'll put links to absolutely everything down in the description. Make sure you check out the Raw Room as well. I think you'll love it. And I'll see you on another one very soon. I'm Adam. This is First Man Photography. See ya.